Hi, I'm Glenn Southern and this is the second in a series of Nomad beginner sculpting videos. It's all about this little character, and we've done the first video, or week one, if you look up above there, is all about the basics of the head and blocking out the head. So this week we're going to take a look at the horns, and then looking at things like how to start painting him up using physically based rendering. And then from there, in future videos, we're going to work our way down and do his body and then the overall scenery. So let's dive right in and have a look at those horns. Okay, welcome back to the second in this series of absolute beginners character work in Nomad Sculpt. I've put the video up there, up above, for the first week. So if you want to go and review that, if you're coming to this without seeing that one, a lot of this won't make sense if you don't follow it from that first video. So what we're going to do is a number of things. We're going to change the material at the end of the video from this, which is matte cap or material capture, over to PBR, which is physically based render. And I'll explain more when we get to that. And that'll then give us, we'll be in a position then to paint it and change the materials a bit. We're going to smooth it down a lot more. There's been quite a few requests about doing some more, a bit more of an update on how to keep the mesh smooth, because at the moment it's not. It's quite wobbly at the minute. And also we're going to finish off the head detailing before we do get to that. And that's the next bit that we're going to do, which is the horns. So let's come up here and we'll make a sphere. There are quite a few ways to make horns, so I'm going to give you a few examples before we actually get into it. So I'm going to pick the sphere, as I've said, and I'm going to hit solo here at the bottom. So all I'm working with here is the horn. Now we've got to do a central horn. So first of all, I'm going to validate it. We don't need to do any changes to it. And I'm going to keep symmetry on here. And I'm going to go to move. And you'll see there it moves it symmetrically. So if you want to make this middle horn, and I actually know that it's bending forward like this, a curve like this. So first of all you have to do is pull it up in the middle and see how aggressive that is. If that's too much for you, then bring this intensity right down. And then it moves much, much slower, like that. So bring that up, pinch it together at the top and down at the bottom, and that'll give you, straight away, you've got what could ostensibly be a horn shape. So just tweaking it a little bit, just with move, bring it round to the side, and then grab it at the back here and just pull it in like this. And you'll see there now, that's literally all you have to do. I'm going to go smaller at the top, like so. Keep pulling it down and moving it around like that. And that pretty much has given me the first horn. So that's one way to do it. It's one very, very simple way to do it. It's just a shape that you want, and it's all there for you already. Now the base of it has got a little bit of shape to it. So if we just go to clay up here, and then we come down here and we just paint on some of that surface. If this doesn't look right when you're painting, it's usually because the stroke is wrong. So let's take a look up here. And as it happens, the stroke, so stroke panel down at the bottom, we've got a funny setting in here. It's because I've been doing some custom stuff. So remember, if we're ever doing really flat, normal, everyday sculpting, we want a flat table like that. If we want something that's a bit more pointed, then that's what I was on. So always come in here and check that you've got like a nice flat table. There are some presets. So you could, for example, look in here, tap inside the graph there, and there are some presets, but we don't really want any of them. Some of these are quite nice for giving you certain looks on your sculpting. But we go to custom and have this nice flat table. And what that gives us is this nice flat surface like this. Paint all around it like this until we get a nice build up at the base of the horn like so. And once that's done, go back to move, and this is a good tip, this is one to remember, is if it's not tight enough at the bottom, if the crease isn't tight enough, if you just pull down like this, it almost pulls it underneath the bit that you've sculpted. And that's a great way of adding some, not folds, but gives you a little bit more of a nice tighter crease without actually even using the crease. So you can do it the other way, you can pull it over like that, and then pull it under like that. And it just gives you a, you can do that with other parts of the body as well, like the eyebrows and things like that. So if you're happy with that one, turn solo off for a minute and we can come click on the horn. Let's put our outline on again. Remember, that helps us when we're not sure which one we're on. Click on gizmo, orange outline. Oh, look at that. That's a good thing to get wrong. Why has it gone like that? Because the symmetry's on and I pulled it off the symmetry line. So double finger tap to undo, symmetry off and scale. And then we'll just bring that horn to the middle, and it's in the middle of the forehead like so. Scale it again, rotate it again, and then just get it into the sort of position that you think it should be. And then once you're happy with that, go back to move, symmetry on for the move, remember, and then just locate it where you think it, where you can see it dipping into the surface like this. You obviously want that rim to be sitting on the surface like that, because when we smooth it in, that's going to make a nice, it has to give us a nice surface mark there. Maybe pull it back a tiny bit more, like that. Okay, so that's our first horn done. Now, we could easily duplicate that, but what I want to do is show you different ways to make a horn. So what we can do is we'll go to a different tool now. So we'll go to, this time we'll go to let's try the tube tool. So come down to the bottom of the brush panel down here and go tube. Move over to the side. We don't need it symmetrical now. We're going to use path, which is this one with the dots here. And we're just going to make a path like this, like so. Now this could be anywhere, you can move it around, you don't need to do that. And I'm just going to click the green button and then I've got a tube. So bring it to the middle so you can see it a bit better, like so. So if I pull this yellow one out, the tube gets bigger, and this is parametric, and that basically means it's still live. So I can pull this out. I want to look at the wireframe, you can see the wireframe there. And that's responding to what I'm doing. So if I move this around, it moves like this. This is a super powerful tool, especially when you're getting into more complex shapes. But we've got it big at both ends, so we need to amend that a little bit, don't we? So come up to the panel at the top, and you've got a few parameters to play with in here. So the one that you've got here that says tube topology, and you've got constant density, change that. And then you can change the divisions. That means you can put more spans in it if you want. Both on the X and the Y, so you can make it higher and lower polygon. Okay, now we move on to tube geometry, and what it says there is radius star, and that is essentially just moving that yellow. So this does the same as this. We don't want that because that's not giving us any options to make it a horn, is it? But what we do is we go up to the top here, and on this little panel we've got radius, so you can hit this 3 times. So this one gives us a start and an end. Hit it again and it gives you no options, and you can only do it down here now. In fact, if you can see there, it's just giving you an option per span. So it's not going to do anything it's not going to help us because we want to go bigger and smaller, from top to bottom. And then you go one more and you come up to the top, have a look again. And oops, it's not one more, it's 2 more, and you get both. So you get start and you get end, and that's the one we want. So you basically just make the end lower all the way down until you get it to be a horn like that. Now move these around in the middle, and this will allow you to to really refine the look of this particular horn. Make it right tight at the end like so. If you want to make something crazy, you can do all this. So if you want demon horns and craziness, that by all means go to town with that. But at the moment, we don't want that. We're after a nice, oops, just move that too close together. And you can see, in fact, it's a good time for me to show you what I did there. So these points are all editable. So for example, if I'm getting a bit of jankiness in the middle here, if it's not quite right here, I could literally delete that by dragging it to this point, and they snap together. And that means we've got a much nicer curve. If you know what a Bezier curve is in Illustrator, or if you understand that terminology, then you'll know what this is like. This is all being driven by this curve here. And you can add more curves in if you wish. And that can get, that can get really useful later on if you want to start making, you know, much more detailed models of this sort of nature. So once that's done, then we just go validate, and that makes it a permanent thing. And then we can turn our wireframe off, and then we can move it into place like so. Now this hasn't got a base, so what we'll do is we'll adjust that one once it's on the model. I'm going to use the red button there just to make it a bit smaller. I'm going to bring it to the back a little bit like so, and then rotate it around a little bit smaller again. And I'm going to use the move on it with a small setting, and then that'll just bring it down like that. Going into the head, like so. Now, if that's too tight, if you can see that this bit here is that the point is too much, then you can inflate it a little bit. So if you come down here to inflate, make sure this is super low, and then go up on your size, and then inflate like this. And as you can see, that's going to inflate it or balloon it up a little bit for you. So that's a good way of then adjusting it once it's in place if you feel like it's not working for you. And of course you can voxel remesh it at this point. If that's not looking good, you could literally just come up to your voxel and then hit remesh, call it 150 and remesh it. And oops, don't do that because that was the head. Come up here, 150-ish, and then remesh it. And there you've got like something that's much higher resolution, and then you can work on that. Now look how blocky that looked. I'm smoothing it now by holding smooth, but it looked blocky because it was just really showing the kind of polygons it was made from. So you just have to be aware of that, and you might want to go up some resolution before you go in and voxel remesh that. So let's just do a little bit more pulling it down like so. I just noticed it was a little bit too high for me, and that one will actually do. So they're two really good ways of making horns, so we can duplicate them now. So from tube, I'm going to rename that one to horn, if I can spell it correctly, and this one here is the one in the middle, if you remember, and we'll call that center horn. Click OK, so this one that we've got here, let's open the panel and keep it open for a minute. We want to duplicate this one. We want to move it down. We want to spin it all the way the other way, rotate it a tiny bit, and then move it down to this corner of the head like this, because he's got a spike coming out of his ear just at this corner here. You can see this one here. So next, let's move that along. So go back to this one, duplicate this one, and you can see there's another horn at the top here that would be a little bit further around like so. So we just rotate it in a couple of angles using the different coloured circles will get you what you want. Rotate it till you get it roughly like that. You're after this kind of effect up here. So rotate it around, something like that, and then down. And it's just check it from the back. Make sure that it works from the back, because at the minute it's a little bit too far forward like that. So you're just lining it up really there. Once you're happy with that, roughly like so, then we're in a good place with that. So what do we need to do next? So we need to select all three of those, and there's two things you could do here. You could combine it with the head, which would be obviously go here. It's called eyes because it wasn't renamed properly, so we're going to rename that head like so. Drag that to the bottom so we know where it is. We don't want the center horn in. In fact, yes, we do want the center horn in, don't we? Because we're ready to meld that in. We can select all of those 5, and we can do a voxel merge now. So we'll go a nice higher resolution, so about 500, and voxel merge. And that now has merged everything into one mesh. Now just check how low or high it is. If it's not good enough detail, now's the time to do that a bit higher. So if you want to go up to, again, I reiterated this in video 1, this is the simple, easiest way to make your machine crash. So just be a little bit mindful that you know that you could really have saved this first before you do this stage. So voxel merge 700, check the wire, and that's nice and high res. But we haven't done the other side, have we? So let's quickly go and do the symmetry. So it's hit the symmetry button. We want world center, left to right, yes, and it mirrors it across that world center for you. And that's the horns in place. So let's have a quick look around the head and make sure we're happy with it. So we'll just use the move tool. We'll kind of bend these ears back a bit now because we're getting a bit of life into the character now, so we can really be thinking about what he's going to look like when we get to the, you know, the final. Build his head up a little bit. The character that we've done isn't going to need a neck as such because he's going to be buried in a cloak. So now if you wanted one, you could at this point go and, you know, you could go and work up some kind of a neck if that was something that you felt you needed. But we certainly aren't going to need it for the bits that we're going to do. So I'm going to just bring the mouth in a little bit. I'm just looking at the reference above, and I'm just trying to get him a little bit closer to the reference now because we're ready to move on to the next stage in a moment. Maybe the eyes could come back a little bit more. So just pull them back like so. Maybe a little bit more open in the default state, like that. This, when we change it to physically based rendering, is going to look very, very different because we've got this waxy red look at the moment. It's suddenly going to change because of the way we're going to light it, and you'll see that in a moment. So I'm just going to use a bit of smooth on it around here. You can see now we're getting much smoother now. So what's happened there is we've got a much cleaner mesh overall. If you want to smooth it more, you can now go in and you can, you know, make it either lower or higher depending on what's working for you. I generally don't worry too much because most of these models at some point are going to go out for retopology, which we may cover at the end of this series. I'm just using the clay tool now, and I'm just making sure that he looks good from all the angles. I'm going to go clay to flatten and just keep switching back until I'm happy that I've got all of these details looking right. So I'm looking for nice areas of, you know, where it can be smoothed. So I'm using flatten and then smooth. Too much there. So bigger brush, smooth. So once I've done the flatten, and then use the smooth, and you can get these nice curves. You can see them reading quite well here. And then smooth, and smooth. If you've gone too far, like we probably have with the nose, it might be time to bring in the crease brush again. So come down to crease, come down the sides, and we'll just make sure we've got that little fold around the side like that, and then smooth it down at the back of it. And then underneath, I think we would want little indications of nostrils. We're not going like uber realistic here. We just want an indication of it. So just bring that in. And then with the move tool, small brush, instead of sculpting it in, we can actually pull it in and look at that. It gives it a bit more life straight away. Pull it down in the middle a little bit. And we've got a cute little button nose that we said, we would be making. And the last little bit you might want to do, again, if you're new to this, you know, it's easy for people like me to do because we do it every day. But for you, you might have to practice some of this a little bit. So don't be surprised if it takes you a few minutes to, you know, of soak time getting this to feel how you want it. So literally pause this video if needed, if you're following along, and just go and practice and move these around. And if needed, go and find some more reference of mouths and noses and anything that you know feels going to be relevant to what you're trying to sculpt. So just moving the mouth around, a bit more of a smile. Put perspective back on, so it gives us a much more realistic look of what we're gonna see in the real world. If you do it in orthographic mode with that perspective off, you're not going to get a true reflection of what this model looks like. And then when you put perspective back on, he's going to look odd. So always be switching between the two as you're modeling. Notice there I'm doing what I showed you on the horn. I'm pulling the underside of this ridge on top of the ear and pulling it up underneath the ear. So again, that tip that I showed you is going to be, it's going to be useful for quite a few different different scenarios is the right word, isn't it? Okay, so we're pretty much done there now. And what do we do when we've done a section? So we'll come up to the top, we'll go save as, and we know it's the head that we worked on last week. So it's this one, and we'll go plus. We called it baby red, and I'm going to call this baby red 3. Click OK, and now that's saved. So we're not going to get any problems now. So we want to start moving towards painting this up a little bit. If you feel like you want to smooth it a bit and work a bit more, then take your time on this. Go, take your time on the surfaces and remesh it until you're happy with it. So I want to now change it across. So let's just slowly show you how to do this. So if you remember, I'll just recap it for you. We were in our there's quite a few buttons up here that you might want to look at. So the one that matters is shading, and we're in matte cap, and we're now going to switch from matte cap over to physically based rendering. Now that's basically, it looks grey and odd at the moment. So let's pin that open. And what it is, we've got an environment map here, and it's very dark because the exposure is very low. So if we bring that up, you'll see it a bit better. And this map can be spun around by using this here. So the lighting on this model now is coming from this image that is a wraparound sphere. It's called a HDRI, or high dynamic range image. And it's basically saying if there's a light there in the background, if I bring that light, if I bring the image round, that light would be what you can see as a reflection in the front now. If I put that light behind it and backlight it, it would look like this. So let's have a look at some other high dynamic range images that are already in here. We did this on the last video, but I'm just looking for one that I think I want to use. So maybe I quite liked, that's too reddish. You can see in the scene it's very yellowy. Maybe that's daylight, so that's outside, and there's this dark green one here. So maybe we were on a good one already, so maybe that is a good one for us to start with. So let's leave that as it is, but let's add a light. So if you look at the image above, it's got a light coming from the top left. So we'll come up here, we'll go add a light, we'll click on the light, so it's now selected. We'll move it, so we're going to move it to the back and to the left and also up. It's not really having any effect yet. So click on the light, go to spotlight, and now you've got the controls. So you can, like with any model, you can rotate these around now. So basically just rotate it around until it's pushing the light onto the back of the head. You can see it there like that now. I'll go higher, bring the light down like this. It's going to start casting shadows of the horns onto the head, and you can see them here on the model here. So that's the thing that we're after. And we'll go click on the light, and we'll go softness up to make it so there's less harshness, and we'll do cone angle larger like that. So that's now in a good place. So we've got a light that will work with that, and that's going to work for us quite nicely. So let's go and do the eyes first of all, because they're super easy. So then this might make us change our background HDRI, because if we want these nice bright highlights in the eye. So it's just black eyes, so come all the way black, and you can play with your roughness now. So bring that all the way down, and you don't really need any metalness here, so bring the metalness number down, and maybe up a little bit, and the roughness just a bit to make it blurry in his eyes like that, something like that. Now, it's not done anything because you have to basically flood it on. You have to do what's called a force paint all. And that now has painted it and locked it. Now, let's roll that HDRI around. And you can see now how that background image is reflected in his eyes. And that instantly brings him to life. It's very alien, but that's how we get that effect. You can't have any of that if you're in matte cap. So if you hadn't changed to PBR, that's why you can't do this. So let's go tap on the skin. We want to pick a reddish colour for the skin, but look how shiny and glossy he is. So we know what to do there. We need to bring the roughness up, so make him more rough, not all the way. And we want zero metalness whatsoever. We don't want him to look metal at all. And then we can do force paint all. And now you can see that one's got none of the reflection in it at all. So straight away, we're on track. We're looking like our reference. So that's a very good place to be. So shall we paint him? Let's go up to paint. Let's go and pick a nice strong red colour. We could, in fact, just fill the red colour if we wanted to, but I think here's a good example of what you can do. Let's go back and pick a horn colour. So let's pick a yellowy browny colour. We'll force paint all of that on, and then we'll switch to our red colour, and now we'll paint. So we've got paint. We don't need any of these crazy alphas or anything like this yet. We're just painting at the minute. Just going to paint on the model like this. And because we've flooded it for those horns, we won't go anywhere near the horns yet. We can basically just work our way around with this great big brush. Make sure you go underneath as well. And now we can go up and start working in between the horns. So this will be a little bit careful, symmetry on, and we just want to paint up to that rim there. Like so. Now we didn't put rims on the other one, so we could, in theory, go and sculpt them on, but let's just paint it for now and just get him up to the point where we've got this paint going on. So just work your way around. Now the painting is called vertex painting, and it looks a little bit jaggedy at the edge, and you have to have a lot of polygons to vertex paint. So this is where, if you have voxel remeshed and you're too low, now would be a good time to use the next one along. If you remember up here where you've got multi-res, you could subdivide here. I don't need it because I'm just blocking out the colours, but if you want to do a more detailed paint job at this point, then you need more polygons to be able to do that. So I'll just work round all the way around the back here. Remember, it's symmetrical, so it's doing both sides for us. So just come all the way around like so, and you can switch both sides when you're doing the symmetry if you like. You can paint on either side because it's going to pick it up both sides for you anyway. So move it around like so. Now, when we come out with this, if you've painted something with vertex paint like this, it's really useful because this painting, although it's not a texture map, this is just each point in a model like this knows what colour it is. And now that is called a vertex map, and that can be used by other programs like ZBrush and Blender and Maya and all of these. They know what a vertex map is, and that means that you can convert that to a texture map. So as I've said many times, nothing here is wasted. It means that this can be converted. Whatever we paint and whatever we choose here can be used as our texture map in other programs. And Nomad doesn't support that. Nomad doesn't support texture maps yet. It does support UV unwrapping if that's something you're looking for, but it doesn't yet support the full texture maps. So make sure, if you're going to do what I just did, so I moved a little bit then, but you have to make sure that the painting move is off like so, or it will overpaint on the top of your models like so. So what I'm doing there is I'm actually just pulling the horn into the head a bit, and what that's done for me is it's given me the effect of that little rim that we sculpted on the front of the model like so. So I overpainted it onto the actual horn, and then when I pull it down into the surface, it looks like it's got that little ridge that we wanted anyway. So there we go. That's the red done. Now let's just do these horns here. I didn't touch these yet, and we need the colour of the horn. So how do you get that colour? So you tap in here. There's a little eyedropper. Click on there, and you notice down at the bottom here you get your colour of your horn. So just work your way around. Don't overpaint on the ears. Don't forget that. So don't go to the edges if you can help it. Just get nice and tight to the edge on each bit without going over, and then you move it around and do a bit more like so. And eventually you'll get to the point where if there's no model behind it, you can just go right to the edge like so, like that. But everywhere else, you just got to be a little bit mindful and just paint it up. Nearly there. We're not doing any detail other than a base colour at the moment, so we're not getting crazy with any painting techniques. We just got the basics of how to paint something like so. Now, if it's a little bit jaggedy like this, and I've not done a particularly good job, what you could do is hold smooth, and when you smooth, it would not only smooth the geometry now, it smooths the paint as well. So, and there is also, I'm not going to show you because you don't need it, but you've also got a smudge tool as well down in the brushes over here. So you could actually smudge the paint around if needed. And that looks quite good. So I quite like that blend in there. So I'm just going to go back and do these others on the top, like so, and then we're done all around then. There we go. And that's basically how you would do your horns. Now the light that we put in, if you rotate this around like so, you can move it around and get some nice effects and see how your painting's working. If it's not bright enough, or you want to change the colour, make it a bluey colour, make the intensity up like so, make it a bit crazy like that. And now you can rotate with your 3 fingers rotating around, you'll get some different looks like that. So we're looking more and more like our reference all the time. So let's put that light back around the back. And now what we're going to do is the bit that you've all been waiting for, which is painting on the Darth Maul. Let's call him who he is. It's the, you know, the Darth Maul kind of colours that we want. So this is a fun bit really, because you don't really need to take any great amount of time over this at all. Oh, sorry, not so much time. You know, you might need to take quite a bit of time. But what you can do is you can relax and enjoy this a little bit. So now I'm just going to paint what we've got on our reference there. But what I'd suggest you do is do a bit more research and go and have a go at this yourself and come up with a design that works for you. Try something completely different and completely new. So I'm only going to spend a few minutes doing this, because obviously we need to move on to something else. But we probably could do with just getting the bulk of this down so you can see it like so. So I'll do his eyes like that. And there are a couple of tricks that I want to show you along the way. I would time lapse this normally to save time for you, but I'm going to come to a couple of tricks that I'd want to just show you in a moment. So come round his eyes, and I'm going quite fast. I'm not worrying too much about being too detailed. So bring him round like this, the top. So one of the first tips I'm going to give you or tell you about, that was wrong that bit. So I don't know whether it's more like Maul or Alice Cooper at the minute. He's got some crazy stuff going on here. So to make these spikes of these on the eyes here, you could go with a really small brush and really try and get it you know, spiky by, you know, going tighter with the small brush. But there's no point, because all you need to do is do what I've done there. Go and pick your eyedropper, pick the red, and then paint that back in. So in that way you get these really sharp, tight curves like this. So that's a really good tip for getting that. You know, instead of just painting in the one color, you're going to paint in the, you know, in the 2 colors that you've picked. And that's why we didn't do any other surface colors. That's why we've not gone any, you know, we've not really added any surface detail with alpha maps yet. So let's go back to the other color, pick that one. So this one. His lips are completely dark, so we'll paint them in like so. See how this little bit of painting really changes the colour, doesn't it? It changes the feeling of the creature. So it's really powerful that, you know, a combination of the lighting and a combination of the colours and you know, and the way we're painting him is really fundamentally changing how we feel about this character. So it kind of brings it to life, I think, something like this. So I'm not completely following the reference, as you can see. So just bring it around here. And again, it doesn't really matter because it's all good fun, just, you know, and certainly if you're doing this for the first time, I'd want you to really just, you know, relax into this for a few hours and just really, you know, learn how to do this stuff. And, you know, because the more practice you get doing it on things like this, the better you're going to get with it. And as you're playing with it, you're going to come up with new ideas and get, you know, new ideas for new projects as well. So I would encourage you to have a play and take your time with it, like so. Just put him down here. You can see me, I'm just making it up as I go. So a bit more. So do some of those cuts back in. Remember what we did where we changed the paint colour. It's giving us that, oh, too much there. Giving us spikes wherever I'm painting now. I overpainted over the horn there, so you saw me undo that and go back. Coming down here, a couple more minutes and we're done. Want these to be nice like this. And there we go, that's more than enough. Now if you want to make it pop a little bit more, remember we put the light at the top, or you can just add another one. Switch the other one, and we can put that one to a different colour. So we'll make this one a bit slightly greener, a little bit more green. Spotlight, softness up, cone angle up, intensity up, and then we'll just move it around like this. Move it down like so, closer to the face, out to the side maybe. Not keen on that green now I've done it. Maybe even lower and looking up, something like that. Yeah, I'm not keen at all on that green, so let's go in and we'll change that to a nice orange colour. I think it darkened it up too much there, so let's push some orange in there and that might give us a different look. So again, it's all about playing with it and seeing, and seeing what works for you. Okay, in the next video, we're going to start looking at the body. So we're going to take what we've done so far and we're going to extend it down with the whole body and arms and legs in a block out. So we'll do exactly as we did with the head. We'll just block him out first of all. And then from there, we'll work on the next few videos will be the feet and the hands and then the overall scene. We launched our first online classes in 2020 and chose Nomad Sculpt as our test subject. Mobile sculpting was a fairly new phenomenon and Forger was leading the way, with Nomad being the new kid on the block. We launched the Nomad Beginners course, which included how to make a little woodland friend. This was then followed by the T-Rex course, the droid course, the tattoo course, and now we've launched this little Nomad garden course that brings phase 1 to an end. I had a plan for all this, but I didn't really explain it all to you. Our courses are either a foundation, a skill building, or a project-based format, and the foundation courses are the deep dives into a subject, software or business tool like the YouTube for You course that we now offer. They cover a subject in its entirety from the ground up and are generally 5 to 10 hours of in-depth learning. The Skill Builder courses are a little more targeted and aim to teach you one aspect of a subject in greater detail. We'd always advise that anyone taking this course is not a beginner, or preferably they've taken our beginner course in that area. And these are generally 2 to 3 hours in length. The project-based courses are for specialist areas and generally assume that the student has a good grasp of that area of focus and just wants to get more specifics from that course. They're anywhere from 1 to 3 hours long. What I actually didn't explain was what those courses were doing for you as you work through them. The foundation course for Nomad gave you that all-important start in understanding how it all works. Along with that, we gave you a character course, which is a fantastic way to build muscle memory and keep you engaged as you learn. The droid course then gave you some hard surface skills. The T-Rex course, which was nothing to do with dinosaurs and actually everything to do with your first look at creature creation. The latest offering and the last of the Nomad Skill Builder courses is to top off your skills with environments. And that's a pretty comprehensive range of skills to start you off as a digital artist. It's an easy structure to keep adding fun and interesting projects that keep building your knowledge, and it makes you a more rounded sculptor. Next up, we're going to add those all-important projects to Nomad and then start the journey all over again with software like Procreate, Gravity Sketch, ZBrush and Adobe Modeler and loads more. The community side of things is just as important to us, and we've now got the collective area, a new resource hub where we'll be storing all of the free assets, and a new offering including coaching, membership and more mentorship places this year. I hope that helps you understand our roadmap a little bit better, and it's all about helping you create in new and innovative ways. Thanks for joining us. I hope you're enjoying these videos, and if you are, please give us a thumbs up. It does help us to get in front of other people who like this kind of content. Don't forget to hit all so that we can notify you when we do drop the content, and make sure you subscribe so you'll see everything that we're making when we upload it. Thank you so much everybody, and have a great week.